This is Bars at Work, where leadership and personal development meets hip hop.
Let's keep it moving.
Real teams don't scapegoat, accountable for their own scope, collaborate for the betterment of the whole. It's more than just lettering on your clothes.
It's more than just lettering on your clothes, right? You want the merch, you want the bag, the shirts, right? People are proud of the place that they work, reputation, all of that, right? So it's more than just that. There's a lot of pieces. So let me go back to the beginning of Bars here. Real teams don't scapegoat, accountable for their own scope. Bars, man. So scapegoat versus being accountable for your own scope. Explain that relationship there. What's the distinction?
So scapegoating is a psychodynamic term that has been researched. It's the idea of previous hundreds of years ago with sacrifices and things like that, placing the sins on a goat, right? A sacrificial goat,
right?
That scapegoat, right? This idea that in teams or in organizations, many times when there's challenges or issues, people start to project that and villainize a person, a team, or a group and say the problems sit over there. This person or that team was the reason why something did not get accomplished. It's the reason why this issue is here. They're the reason why, yada, yada. So we see this all the time where people get scapegoated in a team dynamic when really they weren't the true contributor. In fact, the whole team was a contribution to the issue. But we overly index on a person or a particular team in an organization and say, there goes the issue right there. And in that, there's a lack of accountability, a lack of ownership. People don't see themselves in the problem and say, well, what was my contribution to it? And that's where that tie between accountability and scapegoating, accountability, people got to come to the table and say, what do I own to contribute? And I have to take ownership for that. And we have to own problems too.
Seeing yourself in the problem and what role did I have to play? So there's a lot of truth in the fact of when something goes wrong. Yes, the person that may be slapped with the scapegoat label, they had a lot to do with it. They may have been partially at fault.
Yeah.
I would argue that nobody's, typically people aren't 100% at fault for anything, especially when you're in a collaborative environment. But seeing yourself and looking and saying, well, okay, what part did I play in that, or what part can I play in that? And I think part of it, of owning your own scope, a lot of times is not really well defined on what your scope is. And you can come into a new organization, into a new role. Like the job description that you hired for was one thing. The interview talked about something a little bit different. And then when you show up, it's like, this ain't even what I signed up for.
Yeah.
So what happened in that evolution? So now that person, they're not even clear about why they're there. They have an idea, but just imagine from those 3 steps that I just laid out, the people on the team, what they're expecting, because they know the guy that was in this role last, what he did, and he left. So they're expecting this person to come and do this. Well, you're a whole different person with different abilities, and maybe the needs of the team has shifted. So that's not clearly talked about with leadership and the individual, as well as with the team, about what this person is going to do. You're really setting it up so that you can point fingers, because nobody knows who's really responsible for certain things.
It goes back to role expectations. It's like, all right, if their expectation is that you're supposed to be operating a certain way, but the leader's thinking, no, I brought you in to create some change and do some innovation and focus on these goals over here, and there's not a lack of clarity, or there is a lack of clarity, then the scapegoat, I'm like, they're just not getting the job done. And a lot of the scapegoating is also not just about there was a problem and somebody did contribute to it and they're just taking all the blame. Sometimes the scapegoating is literally, they had nothing to do with it, but somehow people just project,
slay him.
Blame. It's like,
finish him.
Look, I'm in HR. I'm an HR executive. I see this all the time. HR is this, that, and the third. And I'm looking around like, we had nothing to do with that.
It's all HR.
It's your poor leadership.
It's your policy.
It's your lack of accountability. It's your lack of having a strategy. It's your lack of X, Y, and Z. But it's like, oh, HR, we can't get X, Y, and Z. Stop projecting your issues on other people. Same thing. You could call out any function. Oh, finance is not. It happens. And it happens at the individual level.